In this video, there are a few things that I want to talk to you about before you move to the Seattle metropolitan area. Before we jump in, I'm Bryce Greenleaf, a local real estate agent here in the greater Seattle area. I love helping you guys, those of you that reach out to me here from YouTube when you're either moving over to the Seattle area or you already live here and you're looking to purchase a home. Happy to help you out through that process and finding the right place for you to live. But on this video, like I said, I'm going to talk about some things you should know before you move over to the greater Seattle area. Now, one thing about the Seattle area, and when I'm talking about Seattle area, I'm not talking about Seattle proper, right in the city of Seattle. I'm talking about the entire metropolitan area. One thing that's really unique about the Seattle area is it is far from uniform for multiple different reasons and multiple different aspects. While there may be some metro areas across the US where it's pretty uniform when it comes to housing and politics and neighborhoods and all that kind of stuff, Seattle, it's far from that here in the metro area. So the first thing I want to talk about here is politics. This is an important aspect for a lot of people when they're moving to a new area, is what are the politics like? Do people fit with my views? Now, you've probably heard Seattle, the city of Seattle itself, is very liberal. There's a lot of activism in Seattle. You'll see protests certain times of the year or certain events when things happen around the country. It is a very liberal and active political climate here in Seattle. The same can be said for some of the immediate surrounding suburbs, but less intense. Maybe like a Bellevue on the east side, on the other side of the lake, and some of those immediate surrounding cities. Still very liberal, but maybe a little less activism for sure in those communities. Now, the further you go outside of this main corridor of Seattle and Bellevue, the less and less liberal and active those politics will get. There are a lot of cities in the Seattle metro where you're gonna have an equal balance of both, whether that's liberal and conservative. So maybe that's cities like Everett, like a Lake Stevens up on the north side. Maybe that's like a Snohomish, or if you go down south, maybe that's like a Maple Valley or a Renton. There are certainly a lot of areas around here where you're gonna have a good mix of both. When it comes to both ends of the political spectrum, you'll find a lot more balance in these communities. Now, the same can be said if you continue to go even further out where it gets much more conservative than it is liberal. So you could go to a city like a Monroe, or you could go all the way up north to like a Mount Vernon. There's gonna be cities around here where it's gonna be much more conservative than it is liberal. So the point of this is, if you're planning to move over to the greater Seattle area and the political climate is extremely important to you on where you're moving to, just do the research and figure out what suburbs would actually fit with what you're looking for. Or if you're looking to be right in downtown Seattle, make sure that you're okay with the current political climate and views there. But regardless how you feel about politics and what end of the spectrum you're on, you will be able to find communities and suburbs in the greater Seattle area with views that align close to yours. Now, the second thing I want to talk about here are really the downtown areas. So downtown Seattle, like I said, everybody knows about downtown Seattle, not just the political climate, but what's really going on in downtown and what a lot of large downtown areas across the country suffer from, especially on the West Coast. And that is the homelessness, the drug epidemic, the trash on the streets, tent cities all over the place, graffiti, all that kind of stuff that is in downtown Seattle that deters a lot of people from wanting to live down there. Now, there are plenty of people that live downtown in Seattle and absolutely love it, but these are things you need to be aware of and know about before you move down into this area. Crime can be pretty rampant in downtown Seattle, depending what neighborhood you're in, but it is certainly an issue down there. Now, you can go 10 miles to the east of Seattle. I just mentioned it already, and that's Bellevue. So these are the two largest downtown areas around here. So if you're looking for either an urban lifestyle or you want to be just on the outskirts of these two cities in a neighborhood with a bit more of a suburban feel, you can do that too while still being close to all the urban activities. These are the two largest downtown areas in the Seattle Metro. Now, Bellevue is going to feel like a completely different world than Seattle is. While Seattle suffers from all of those things going on in the streets downtown, Bellevue suffers from almost none of it. You're not going to see tents downtown. You're not going to see public drug use down there. You're not going to see a homeless issue down there. Laws are enforced more so in Bellevue, and they don't suffer from those issues right in the downtown area. It's much more clean. You're not going to see graffiti and trash on the streets. They really do an excellent job of keeping Bellevue clean and having a very pleasant downtown area where you can go out at night and walk from a restaurant to a bar to grab a drink or go shopping, and you're going to feel safe. Versus some people in Seattle may not feel that way when they're downtown. So it's important to know you can live an urban lifestyle around here, and you can have two different types of downtown areas that you can explore and figure out which one works better for you. Now, the housing is another important aspect to consider, and something, of course, everybody thinks about when they're moving, because they want to know what the housing prices are and if they can afford to live in a certain area. While the median home prices in Seattle are just under $900,000 right now, there are a lot of different suburbs around here with different median price points depending on what you're looking for. I just mentioned Bellevue, right next to Seattle, 10 miles east of Seattle. While Seattle is just under $900,000 in median price point, Bellevue is about 1.6 million. So you can see the difference there. There's a reason Bellevue can command a lot more for housing over there. People love living in that area. Now, you can go up north of Seattle and Bellevue in some of these suburbs in very family-friendly neighborhoods. You can go to somewhere like Bothell, where the median home price is going to be right about $1 million. You can go somewhere like Linwood and Edmonds, where the home prices are going to be closer to $900,000. You could keep going up north to cities like Everett, Lake Stevens, Snohomish, Marysville, where median home prices are going to be closer to $600,000, $700,000. Same thing can be said for going down south. You could go somewhere like Federal Way or Auburn or Kent, where median home prices are going to be closer to $600,000 or so. And you can go even further down to Tacoma, where median home prices are going to be closer to $500,000. And like I said, there on the east side in Bellevue, you also have cities like Kirkland and Redmond and Issaquah and Sammamish, where median home prices are going to range from 1.4 to 1.7 million in those communities. So you have a lot of different communities with different home prices in this Seattle metropolitan area, so hopefully you can find something that works well with your budget. Now, along the lines of housing and talking about different neighborhoods, the Seattle metropolitan area is going to give you a different feel in a lot of different neighborhoods, as opposed to some areas, again, around the country where you have metro areas that are maybe a lot newer. All of the neighborhoods look pretty uniform. They're all newer homes. All the homes look the same. That's not necessarily the case here in the Seattle metro area. Seattle is an older area, so you can find a lot of communities, not just in Seattle, but a lot of the suburbs outside of Seattle. You can find communities with much older, more established neighborhoods, homes that are built in the early 1900s that are colonial or craftsman style homes with amazing character, beautiful features on these homes. And on the flip side of that, you can find these uniform and new construction neighborhoods in some of these communities. Now, you can find certainly some of these on the I-5 corridor on the west side. You will find even more of these type of new communities on the east side. In general, the further east you go in the Seattle metro area, the newer the communities are going to get. There are exceptions, of course, but just in general, you're going to find more new construction communities the further east you go. So if you're looking for something that's a new neighborhood and you like that clean aesthetic of a neighborhood where all the homes look very similar and everything is close to brand new, you have many options for that as well. And you have anything in between. A lot of homes around here built in the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. All sorts of different architectural styles. Neighborhoods with HOAs, neighborhoods without HOAs. You have a lot of townhome communities. You have a lot of condos in all of these suburbs. So there is a very, very wide mix of different types of real estate all throughout the Seattle metropolitan area. So really, in conclusion with this video, is Seattle Metro is not a uniform area. You can come over here. There's a lot of different types of people over here, and they live in a place that fits their lifestyle best. People from all ends of the spectrum that live over here and are very happy over here because they're living in a community that fits with their lifestyle, fits with their preferences and what they're looking for. So don't be scared if you see headlines maybe about Seattle and that's not what you're wanting out of your lifestyle. Just because something is happening in Seattle does not mean that's happening in the surrounding suburbs, even the suburbs that are very close, within 10 miles, 5 miles. It doesn't necessarily mean that's happening all around the Seattle metropolitan area, and vice versa. You can find things in downtown Seattle that you can't find in any of the other suburbs, which is why some people love living down there still. So keep that in mind if you're thinking about moving over here or you already live here. Like I said, I'm an active real estate agent in this area, so if you're purchasing a home, planning to buy a home, I'd be more than happy to help you out with that process. Feel free to reach out to me at my info in the description. Thanks for watching this one.